Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Niels van Roij. This is the second video on our Tesla Model S based shooting brake conversion. Please have a look at the first video if you haven't seen that yet. We'll talk you through the rake, we'll talk you through hard points and all the decisions that were made to get to the point where we are now, the design propositions. So, without any further ado, let's take the Wacom pen and have a look. What we did here is obviously the ability to change all this area. So the red block is basically everything you can change. In the very first proposition, which would be by far the more expensive proposition to develop, we can change everything from the shoulder line upwards basically. So the glass area, the way the roof runs, all the hard points there. A quick comparison to number 2, so the second design proposition, and you obviously see that this window of the rear door is 100% original, and that is very hard. You can see why. There is a very fast glass line, a fast roof line of just original car, and if we would make that into a station car, a shooting brake, then you see there's this large surface area that you suddenly have on the back of that car, and it's not being broken up like with any normal regular estate version or station car version of a normal sedan. Think of the Audi A4, a Mercedes E-Class, a BMW 5 Series. All these cars have changed rear doors, changed glass lines of the rear door, so your eye is being drawn to the rear end. So how we did that with this second proposition you will hear, but let's first go to the first proposition where we can actually change that roof line and change the glass line. So number 1A. On the left hand side here on the sketches you see very first sort of quick doodles, mainly just there to experiment, and that's basically this entire ideation phase. It's there not to make beautiful sketches, it's there to experiment, to see how the problem of designing a station car or a shooting brake or an estate body based on a Tesla Model S could go. Number 1A, let's have a quick look. So what we do is we take the original equipment manufacturer or OEM, the car manufacturer's design DNA forwards, we use it. For instance here in the A-pillar, which we now pull upwards and backwards, and then you get this lovely facette here running around the rear spoiler. This line here is quite special too, because in this case, obviously this is original, but this is new. We lowered the original line. The original line of the base car would be somewhere there. So these few extra centimeters help to get the eye towards the back, that way, that direction. Why? Well, it generates this strong, straight shoulder line, and it's just a different design, a different take on the same theme. Again, look at the BMW 5 Series or 3 Series station cars, Tourings in BMW language, and you will see that the window lines are changed there as well. Here on the top we have extra glass here, so more or less this part is new, it's extended towards the top, and what we see here is a nice kick up. So the rear window has quite a steep rake, there's a kick up there and there is a kick up there, which generates a strong visual, a strong outline of that graphic of the daylight opening, the DLO, and that in itself, these two kick-ups generate a very strong pillar here, a nice amount of surface there, and you can see that here as well. They work together well. Obviously in perspective the little kick-up there is almost lost, but you can see the straight belt line here of 1A takes the line directly into the glass of the rear end, and it has a super strong and confident D pillar. So the A pillar, the B pillar, the C pillar and the D pillar there. If we then have a look at 1B, we see a different proposition, because this line here, this is original, this is unchanged. This here is obviously changed. The original roof line, original glass line is somewhere there. So this is put on top basically, but we've used this kick up, if you like, the line flows upwards there, to generate this big surface, this big shoulder there. So it goes from concave to convex, and it generates this lovely strong shoulder there. You can see it here as well. Just it flows up nicely, and then we take it backwards visually into the glass there. But the glass in itself is obviously very different compared to what you see here. So this kick up here, it's gone. We have these very soft, very rounded edges. You can see that here in perspective a bit better even. And rather than having a regular spoiler, which you can see there, here we have a spoiler that is basically generated by pushing the window inwards. So here we see a very different thing. We see the rounded edges, and we see a spoiler here that is generated by pushing the surface of the window, which was there, inwards. So this area goes there, this point, it pushed inwards, generating a very subtle spoiler. And it's emphasized by this subtle facet running around the entire window, emphasizing by light, because the light will break on the surface, emphasizing that this is a round window. And again, a different design team altogether compared to 1A. But there's more. There is 1C, for instance, and here 1C you see a way more formal last window, so a very formal D-pillar if you like. Here it's straight up, but then if you see the side view, you see that there's a fast window line. So what it generates, because of this formal rake of the rear end, is this very, very heavy, strong, solid, confident pillar, and it comes all the way from the A pillar and it runs around the car towards the side, so like this. And it's very rich in its surfacing, the skin. There's a lot of volume there, and it flows all the way backwards. Quite an interesting proposition. And then if we go to 1D and 1E, we see again a very different proposition, and you see how much glass in a volume in a car can do. Very fast, very pointy, all the way backwards from here, generating this one swoop, this arrow shape towards the back. We follow this lower window line and generate this large surface area here. And if we go to 1E, we see a very different take yet again, where we follow this line and don't break it out here. So that's what you've seen in all the other sketches if we keep this original. So in this case we kept it original, and we see that we follow it all the way upwards, and then the roof line is more formal, because otherwise if you would push that down as well, you have only a very small window here, which looks a bit awkward. But because we push it upwards and rearwards, you have this nice station car volume, and it's very heavy, but different again. D-pillar. There is quite a bit of speed in it, this arrow shape here, and a very rich shoulder. So 4, 5 actually. So here we see 5 different takes on the design of the Model S shooting brake, and the so-called designer's pick, the one on the right hand side, is the one that we would advise to our client. So let's go to design proposition 2. 2, like I said, is having the original glass of the rear door intact. So what you see here is the entire second design proposition is with the original windows, but it's also with detached window graphics. So what does that mean? To generate a nice flow, we have to do something with lines that basically do not line up. How does that work? Let me show you. In this three-dimensional sketch you can see it, the roof line, this is the original line, goes downwards, and then it basically stops there, right? So this is the glass we have to work with. This is an area that we cannot change anymore. So how are we going to generate a nice shape if we have to push this entire roof upwards and rearwards and make this into a station car shape? How are we going to break this entire area here? Well, in this case we added a tiny window here just to finish the graphic in a nice flow. And then here we've got a graphic that compensates basically the graphic here, which is very three-dimensionally integrated into the bodywork. It's not just a piece of glass, but you can see that it's like shadow here, cast by what eventually here in the end becomes a spoiler. So this is shadow. It's a nice little kick up there to give the graphic of the glass some strength, and you can see that it generates this very interesting graphic running around the car here. Running around the car, having this unique look, unique new version, a new way of looking at detached graphics, so detached window graphics, generating a station car body type. The sketches at 2A are quite formal. The sketches here at 2B, formal as in a very straight up rear end. Here at 2B it's very, very fast. We have this lovely kick up basically here, obviously again with this extra window there at the side to finish the graphic. And what we do here is we really use this space to flow all around the car. So you have this continuous three-dimensional shape, and we do the same with the window, but we push the roof down compared to that other sketch here to 2A, which is quite formal, so the roof is relatively straight, and in this case I over-exaggerate obviously, but the roof goes down there. So what you see is a more formal and a more informal version. And let's have a look at number C. And here what is worth mentioning mainly is the shut line that goes into this point that we have anyway, so we cannot work around this point of the original window. So what we do is we actually emphasize it. We make it an important part of the design. Why? Well, because with that we can, for instance, very easily give the car a contrasting roof color all the way up to the A-pillar there. It's a shut line that is not a real shut line, so like a door for instance, or a window shut line, but it is a sort of a visual shut line, and it's actually something you see in a lot of modern cars these days, these two different colored roofs. But back in the time when we were designing this car, this Tesla, it wasn't used that often, so it was quite a novel feature, I think, specifically for this type of car. You see it in small SUVs these days and similar vehicles. So here you see this shut line, or fake shut line if you like again, but a lot lower, exactly where the glass would break its light. So obviously because of the rounded shape of the glass of any car, we use that and we actually pull that line through, generating a large surface area here of the roof, a sort of a baseball cap running around, and then we push the glass upwards here, so we create a very, very strong shoulder line that runs around the back, generating only a very small visor-like rear window. Very sporty, an enormous amount of attitude towards the design. Very interesting, I think. And then here in the bottom, that's quite an interesting take as well. There's a facette that runs around the entire car, and obviously in a sketch is always slightly over exaggerated to make the point, but basically there would be a small step into the roof there, so you would read this as one graphic going around, and you see that here in different perspectives, again generating new original character for this conversion. And if we see them all next to each other, we see 5 designs with the designer's pick, the design that we would recommend to our client. So that brings us to design proposition number 3, which is basically the same as number 2. When it comes to the graphics, we cannot change this rear window. But what we've changed with regards to number 2, here in number 3, is that we cannot, in this case, detach the window graphics. So this is the original, the OEM window line. In number 2, what we did was we had this extra little side window in most cases to finish the graphic, and then we had this contrasting graphic running around like that. That is not a possibility if we want to keep it connected. So for instance, what we did here is we just followed the lines and let them cross and generate this interesting graphic there, and obviously on the side and here in the rear. And here in 2 dimensions you can do some quite interesting things, different iterations, different views on that same window graphic. It could be quite interesting, but it's aesthetically not overly pleasing. So we moved on quite quickly from that. Number 3B, so the second proposition, is a super fastback design, very much similar in its rake compared to the Porsche. Here the roof has this shotline design that you've seen in the previous ideas as well. What we do here is very different. We have this hard kick up generating a spoiler. So the roof basically runs like that and then goes downwards, and then here we've got this very broad shoulder. What we do here is quite interesting, because what we try to do is we use the original chrome that the car has, and from the point over there, let's zoom in a bit, we slightly open up the chrome, and then in the end it obviously opens up more and more and more, generating a new window graphic and a shape that takes the eye backwards over the car, over the roof of the car towards the rear, and tries to get away from this tiny window. A lot of work, but still not a design that looks overly balanced. So let's go to the next page and see what we've done here. And what you see is what was in the end actually picked to develop the car. A design we called Bold Chrome. You can see the designer's pick logo there. Again, the same idea, we take the chrome here and we open it up towards the rear. Here you see a very formal straight rear end still. It was only the very first way we came up with doing this. So you see quite a stiff rear end and a facette running around with a window that is pushed in here at the top. Here you can see it looks already quite a bit more elegant, and the three-dimensional sketches just help to understand the shape. As a designer, you know, we're new to this shape. Every single sketch is new to anybody in the world, so also to us as designers. So we have to get used to our design and see, for instance, how to get rid of the large surface area here in the chrome. So what we've done here is actually running this line into the chrome, taking your eye towards the back rather than towards a large surface area of chrome. And then here you can see already some experiments with how can we take this rear spoiler into the chrome as well. A very different take here, where we follow the original roof line here and have a very soft flow into the shoulder, and here we follow it upwards, and as soon as we can push it down we do so. That generates this sort of eye graphic with a very pinching rear end and a very large surface area here running all around the roof towards the front. It would generate definitely a very interesting graphic, but also one that is not necessarily the prettiest. So that brings us to 3E and 3F. A few more sketches here actually than in the previous propositions. Well, why? Because this is a very difficult one to get right. Design really is about experimenting. Car design is about experimenting with shapes. Here you can see we take the A-pillar volume and we take it towards the back. And this is quite interesting too. It's a bit similar to that eye graphic of the previous one, but a bit less extreme, and with that actually a bit more elegant. So what you see is a graphic that runs around the car from the A-pillar all the way towards the back, but it has this interesting graphic here, because normally you would have like a window like this and then probably a window like that, and this would be the surface of the D-pillar. In this case, we made a suggestion of a window there, but we connected it, at least visually. Obviously, if this would be in production, if we would have chosen this as a final design, then somewhere here there would be a small shutter. Nevertheless, it would make for quite an interesting graphic, quite an interesting way of getting that glass around the car, that glass surface around the car. You see it here as well. So you've got this nicely elegant roof line and this little kick up there and this little kick up there, generating this quite interesting graphic. And then here again, very extreme. Just sometimes you have to push the boundaries within design, specifically in this ideation phase, and just go for something super extreme, just so you know you shouldn't do this. And that's what we did here as well. So this is again basically, well, a hatchback, one could say, or a liftback. Not much change with regards to the design of the proportions of the car compared to the original car, but obviously still everything here is entirely new. Not the most successful design, but definitely interesting to see what one can do with graphics in windows, in chrome, and in lines running over the body towards the front. So here we see them all 6 together, and our bolt chrome was the one that we picked in the end, like I said. So we lined all designer specs up. If you want to go for a re-engineered rear end, like the very first proposition, we would go for number 1E. If you want to go for this detached graphic, number 2C would be probably interesting. Large surface area of glass in the back. And then here, bolt chrome is interesting if you want to attach the graphics of the side view but detach the rear window with the side window. And last but not least, the 3 sketches together. And this is the end of the video, because this is where our client had to choose, and it's what will take us to the next video, video number 3, on the design of the Tesla-based Model SB, the Tesla-based shooting brake conversion. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. Let us know below the video in the comments what you think of the video. Maybe other things you would like to see, other cars or other topics within car design for coach building. See you in the next video.